Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cosmic Ascent. I'm here with my really awesome friend, Carrie, from Starseed Awakening. She has her own YouTube channel. And how long have we
Hi,
been friends now? Or I guess, yeah, introduce yourself before I start
I'm
asking you questions.
I'm Carrie. I am from like she said, I have my own channel, Starseed Awakening, and this is the first time I've been live, so I'm a uh little nervous about that. You know, the sweat starting to come out a little bit, and it's cold in here, so that says a lot right there. But you know, I've been feeling the push to do this for a while, so I'm just gonna just jump into it. So
Well,
here
that's
I am.
awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I know how much like courage that really does take because it's just not easy. Even not even just live streaming. It's like putting anything up online about your spirituality or our personal journeys. It takes so much courage and strength. So thanks
Right.
for talking with me off the cuff a little bit about it, because I mean, I don't know if you've watched any of the episodes I've done. I mean, there are hiccups, it's not perfect, but it almost is like it's exactly what is needed, I think. Um, Especially when
Right.
we're talking about spirituality, right? I came across your channel and reached out to you, and I think that it's much different going through this spiritual journey with kind of like a peer rather than like somebody like Teal Swan or people who like really are up on a pedestal, if that makes sense.
It
Um,
makes a lot of sense. And the first thing that came to mind whenever you mentioned Teal Swan is I have journals. I could pull one out right now where I was going through like this process called, I think, the completion process or something like that, where you take trauma, like a traumatic memory, and you go in and you try to change it. And I did that for a while, and I would see like teachers like her, and I would feel like a bit of like I felt inferior because like I felt like there was a standard of what I needed to be at right now, and I wasn't. I was still smoking. I was occasionally drinking. I wasn't, I was all of these things that I was judging myself for, and up on a pedestal is exactly the way that they were. And I mean, like infinite waters and things like that. I mean, so there's a big problem, like whenever you're just awakening and you go and you research and you find these people that are, you have to have a lot of you have to have access to, your bullshit meter. You can't,
oh,
and you
I
can't.
agree.
Yeah, yeah.
And really the ability, I think, to you have to have discernment and to be able to, I think, like get to the root of people's like what people manifest and what the intentions are behind those manifestations. Like, is this person, using this in a motivational way or in a way that is more exploitative? I don't want to get too into that, into like it's like
Right.
almost the politics of spirituality, right? Like, um,
Well, yeah, yeah. There's a
because
difference
I think you
between
are
like
very authentic.
there's
And
a difference between like genuine like spiritual truth and owning, like stepping into your own spiritual awareness and connecting with yourself in higher ways, and like, spirit, like, and then the spiritual like ego, like where
mhm.
and it could easily go from that to like, oh, look at me, I'm so spiritual, into this place that's not good. So yeah, let's not go quite
Let's
there,
not
but
go there. Yeah. So tell me more about your spiritual journey and I guess how it has like changed your life in terms of what you are here to do, or what you feel you're here to do?
Well, like I was saying before we started the stream, it's trauma. That's what I'm here to heal. I'm here to heal it in myself. That's why, like in my first videos on my channel, they're they're not, it's just like me and a cell phone, or me and a little 1 megapixel camera. But it's just me talking about all of these bullet points, these things that's happened that were traumatic, and my journey from being a hopeless drug addict and alcoholic that was mentally ill, to coming into the awareness of who I am, and learning that I'm a shaman here to help heal myself and my lineage and my soul, and also to help pay it forward and help heal others. So that's what I'm doing right now, is a lot of journaling, really, a lot of integrating, a lot of learning that I can't run from my darkness, and I have to, I have to just embrace it. And like I will say one thing about the new age deception, which is a lot of these people, they claim that you are to obliterate any sign of darkness in yourself. Any sign of darkness is bad. Get rid of it. And that is absolutely false. You can't do that,
Well, it's
because
not only false, it's polarizing, which I think
to
is
the
the
light.
opposite of what spirituality is supposed to achieve. At least I think so. I like to use spirituality to balance things, or to clear my perspective, not further, polarize it by saying this action good, this action bad. It's more of helping people come to an understanding and like integration of dark and light, of what we actually are, which is not half and half, almost, as we like to look at
Well,
it.
like Jalila always says, is I listen to Jalila Star. I love Jalila Star. She always, I mean, it's so balanced. And she's one of the greatest teachers to me, is because of how balanced she is. She says, you can't integrate love to love. You don't
Mhm.
integrate
You don't make
compassion
something
into
new.
love. I'm sorry.
I said it's like you don't make something new when you use the same elements. There has to be
Right. Right.
contrast.
And within my own self, part of the reason why I was so hopeless before and I felt so alone is because I didn't love what I felt was bad in myself. I thought that, and at the peak of it was, whenever I was sticking a needle in my arm, and I was just completely, I mean, I was 2 steps away from death. I mean, I just hated who I was. And I had a dream where I was a dragon and I was the devil, and I was watching everybody I loved leave and go up this ladder to heaven. And I was on the exterior, I was this black, scaly dragon. And,
Mhm.
that's a fearful thing. That's the epitome of what people think is the devil. It's that archetype.
That's exactly it.
Yet on the inside, I was sobbing. I was sobbing, and I was a little child. And so what that taught me was, I have to show myself compassion. I can't just say to my ego, which is also my inner child, is it, that's part of me. I can't just say, hey, screw you, get out of here. You're all about you. I have to love that child. So, and if you are all up in your higher chakras, and you don't have and you obliterate any of the lower pieces of that, of yourself, which we've all had lifetimes of darkness where we've played dark roles. But if you the important thing right now for the light worker community is not to obliterate the darkness, because you're obliterating your own discernment.
No, well, yeah, that's a really great point. Also, the ability to, I don't know, maybe relate to others. I noticed that whenever I got to wrapped up in being a certain way spiritually, or I guess just, I don't know how to explain it, almost putting people into categories based on their actions, that I found myself feeling more and more alone, more and more isolated, and it harder and harder to reference my own identity to the identity of others, if that makes any sense.
It
Very,
does. Like the more labels you put out there, it's like, well, where do I fit in? But you can't
well, and
just
it's like
label
more
everything.
reasons. Like, what if the big conspiracy, or not even conspiracy, but the trick, or whatever it is that we're chasing and we keep trying to explain when we talk about social programming and social conditioning and the matrix, right? Is that it was us all along. It's always been us doing this to ourselves, doing this to each other. And the more we, I guess, make reasons that people are inferior, whether it be physical or spiritual qualities, the more you create an excuse for being separate, for being isolated.
Right. And that's a great point, because I actually, and I'm trying to find it. I see last week I was, when we were supposed to do the call, I had my journals out, I had all my notes and everything. But honestly, so I'm looking at for what I'm looking for something right now. But yeah, there is a video by, I think it's better whenever I'm not all prepared and like thinking about what I'm going to say, because I will do that. I I have a problem like with my throat chakra, like feeling blocked. Like I don't know. It's
We're
like
not
I'm always preparing like what I'm going to say and practicing it. So I think now that this is, I think this is better now that it's kind of like last minute. Hey, you want to do a stream? Oh, okay, yeah, because I will do that. I will practice it to death. Okay. I'm still trying to find this.
Well, and it's
Sorry.
really cool for you to like step up, and for us to step up and be like, well, it's more fun this way. Like you're saying, not rehearsed. It's less
Rehearsed.
practice. And I guess, like, in some sense, you could say it's not very Teal Swan-esque, like it's not very pre-packaged and marketed, but it's something people need to see, because it's not just us as
It's real.
spiritual people who are isolated and who suffer because of isolation. Everybody does. And it's like this anxiety, or this like fake fear of each other. I think that perpetuates that a lot of times.
Even with Teal Swan, she's a survivor of satanic uh, child abuse and sex abuse. I mean, that's where, I mean, whenever you go through that darkness with galoshes on and you just grab your raincoats and come on and you just wade through it, that's where you get your experience from. She wouldn't be who she was today if it wasn't for her trauma, and that's what her soul signed up for. That's the thing. We all sign up for it, and at the end of the day, we do choose. And there are some planets out there where you incarnate and you remember who you are, but this particular planet is, and I don't know, depending on how far down the rabbit hole you are, you're not going to really know what you can. This chick's crazy. What is she talking about? But yeah, we don't remember who we are. We don't remember anything. So all of these people in our lives, they agree. Yes, I'll do this, and that for you to be a mirror, and that's what the whole thing is. And that
somebody in the chat just said that she's not certain if the whole Teal Swan stuff has been proven, and I think right there, I used to say this a lot, or not a lot, but when this whole Me Too movement started, I was kind of like, you know, we've heard of people lying about this kind of stuff before. And I kind of had the same perspective, like, where's the proof? But as I've like been interacting with people and I'm starting to see little pieces of things that I thought or reflected back at me, basically, I'm understanding that it's like, well, why would somebody lie about that? You know, what would be the purpose of her lying about it? Like, what needs to really be proven, you know? Um,
Well, I, for one, personally stopped watching Teal Swan and I unsubscribed from her channel, and only because
I'm
I
not a subscriber.
I didn't agree with the way that she was saying go in and change the memory, because that's not what I don't feel like that's balanced. I don't feel
That's
like
not integrating.
yeah, you're not integrating anything. You're just, you're changing the reflection in the mirror to look like something different, but that mirror is there to show you what you really are, what you came here to change. And whenever I stopped doing all of that, the completion method, and I started doing the formula of compassion that actually shows a clear picture of the mirror, which I haven't used the formula for for a while, because I've got to integrate. I'm at a point where, okay, I can't do any more unless I really give myself a break and integrate. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of days. But yeah, so going further with that, the Seven Essene Mirrors of Relationship by Greg Braden. I watched that. I've watched it. No, I've only watched it once. I started to watch it again because it's just so great. But the ancient Essenes basically categorized all of the different ways that our relationships with others have a mirror. And I highly suggest everybody go and watch that. It's so good. I mean, you got to ignore the mullet and the puffy shirt, but I mean, just the information is valid.
Don't be what do you call that? Superficial. People can't, you can't look at it superficially. Is that what you're trying to say? You said mullet, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know.
I mean, it's like a total of the 80s, but I mean, this Greg Braden is amazing. He has another video called "Walking Between the Worlds," which for me, with the whole mental illness part of my experience, like that's what I've had to learn to do. People are like, "Hey, how come you're not on medication anymore? You're schizophrenic. How come, you know?" Well, it's because I learned to
What that means,
to walk
actually.
between worlds. Yeah. So anyway, I'll go like way off of left field
That's
if
not way off left field at all. You know, it's so empowering, I think, to hear about. I think the fact that you want to use what you've been through to help others, and a lot of the things that you've been through just from, you know, watching your channel and knowing you personally. Um, there's so much, you know, you can really do, you know, and ways to positively impact. So I don't think any of it is really off topic. It's all really, really cool.
cool, thanks. Well, okay, so Greg Braden, I'm just going to quickly go through. I mean, there are, of course, there's seven mirrors because it's called the Seven Essene Mirrors. Okay, so the first mirror, I mean, so any situation with any person is going to be one of these. Is the first one is the mirror of the moment, and it's the moment that hold on, I wrote this down, that which we are within. So whatever we're reflecting to others, whatever we have inside is reflecting out, and they're reflecting back to us. So you had to go watch to see what the hell I'm talking about. The second one is the mirror of that which is judged. The third one is the mirror of what was either lost, given away, or taken away. The fourth one is the mirror of most forgotten love. The fifth one is the mirror of the father and mother. The sixth one is the mirror of your quest into darkness, and the seventh is the mirror of self-perception. Now, he does a brilliant job of going through each one and giving a personal story to how in order to explain all of these. But yeah, from what I found in my trauma and in healing, that is that this is so true. With all of it. And I could kind of go through and explain a little bit about that, but I don't really feel like I should, because he does such a great job of doing that on his video. But yeah, I mean, it's so relevant to what we are here as humans to achieve.
And so can you maybe elaborate a bit on, like, how do you actually incorporate what you've learned, or are you planning on incorporating what you've learned in your work? So the kind of work you want to go into, is it like sort of a trauma counselor or a spiritual?
Yes. Well, I'm not quite sure like how to package it, but it's going to be some kind of trauma based, like either intuitive life coach, because I am intuitive. I do have very good intuition. I don't know how to how really to say it,
You have
but
the gifts.
I do have the gifts. I
Yes.
mean, I'm clair cognizant. I have all the clairs, and actually it's strange. Like I feel like the more that I get out of, the more gunk that I clear out through the integration, the more I'm able to like tune in, because all of these traumas hold a very heavy frequency. And you can't really, tune in to your higher self and your guides as well, uh, whenever you have all of that. So I'm just like, literally last night I cried. Oh my God, I cried so hard because of some stuff that's going on. But and then I started to feel like, when I went to lay down, I started to hear like little light tones, like rings in my ears, and it sounded like a hearing test. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm aware, like, that the more that I clear out of this crap, that the more I'm able to do that. And I've started AA. Like um, I'm just
you're
incorporating
both.
all of the things that, that I'm going through, like, because the more trauma you go through, the more compassion you have for others. And people want somebody that's been through it and came out on the other side. And I had every label you could you could think of. I mean, schizophrenia, bipolar, depressive disorder, insomnia, which I still have a little bit of the insomnia. It's just like, oh my God, I can't sleep for crap, like hardly ever. Um, and then what else? PTSD with nightmares. And I was taking a handful of medication, and it just, it did do it for me. It was just like, okay, here, take this, but what is it really doing? What is it doing to cure my pain? It's just like, I mean, it's no better than, to me, than drinking 10 shots of vodka. It's just a medication. So
Well, yeah, and I mean, you're still not addressing, and I learned this when I was studying psychology for a brief time, that they call a disease a biological issue, like a biological misfiring. So, if I get cancer, that's a disease. If I break my leg, like, that's a form of disease, right? Or I guess you wouldn't say that is a disease, but it's the cause, basically, right? Illness is what develops when you try to cope with that disease. So if I got cancer, and that's a disease, I might develop depression as an illness. Still, the illness is caused by the disease. So when we call mental illness, and then turn around and say, oh, people who have mental disorders, people who have addictions, people who have XYZ, there's just something biologically wrong with them. Is like, well, no, there's not. And it's actually in, the terms we use to diagnose it, that this is a product of something else. Medication doesn't let us address those. Medication helps us cover up, and cope with the fact that, like, for whatever reason, we don't have those,
Well, every label that like that you could give, like a disease or this, and every kind of illness has some other kind of explanation on the spiritual side. Because the medical community only focuses on the physical body. Well, what about the emotional body? What about the astral body? What about, I mean, there's other bodies. They're not coming to mind, of course, right now, but I mean, you've got all these other bodies that, that need to be nurtured and taken care of. And, when we die, the physical body is left behind, and we still have all of these other bodies, we're not just the physical. And that's why incorporating more shamanic view into the Western culture is so important. And that's what I'm hearing. I mean, I just heard a voice the other day. Yes, I hear voices, but none of the harmful ones. I've never really had a problem with that, but just it said shaman. I mean, I hear a lot. I mean, I actually heard, it's funny because I sleep with a fan on for the white noise, and I heard one that said writer of the white noise. I was like, what did I just hear? But then I heard shaman, and I was like, what? Okay, well, yeah, that's where I'm going with my stuff, is because, and hearing voices is clear. It means that you're clairaudient, which I am. But yeah, I don't remember exactly where we were going with that, but
so how do you think we can go about actually bringing this to the people who need it most? What do you think has prevented that so far? Because, like, I think about what happened to me or what's happened to you, right? And again, it's like trying to push it off and change, like, your not even change your relationship to the experience, but to kind of just suppress it altogether versus actually integrating it and making it an experience of wisdom, right?
what prevented me from a lot of progress was indoctrination, which we all have here. If you're alive on this planet, you've been indoctrinated. You've been lied to. You've been told that you were sick, you were sinful, you were this, you were that. I don't care if your parents were religious, if they weren't religious or whatever. There's some kind of trauma that has written programs into your subconscious brain that that you have to reprogram. And for me, which is why I kept taking medicine, why I kept drinking until just almost 6 months, I've been completely clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. That's why I kept relapsing, and it's because of belief. I didn't believe, I didn't know who I was. And that's the challenge here, like I was saying earlier, when you come to a planet where you forget, and it's it really can be beautiful. Without the indoctrination, you wouldn't even have the opportunity to wake up and realize, oh my God, I'm divine. Like, whoa, holy crap, I'm this like beautiful soul that's here to experience life as a human. And I really, there's a silver lining in the indoctrination. I don't like to, at first I was pissed off about it. Like I was really angry and trying to tell everybody, hey, look at all this lies and stuff. But that didn't really work, and it just made me feel more crazy. And but yeah, what prevented me from a lot of my progress was literally, it just boils down to belief in myself. because I didn't believe in myself. I mean, nobody else did. Everybody's telling me, "Hey, you're crazy. There's no other life than this. You're not a cat. You don't feline beings don't exist. What are you talking about? You're not a mermaid." I mean, and all of these things are so crazy. But the more I went on with it and listened to my inner guidance, and I've always had dreams and stuff. I mean, our beliefs are based on what we experience. So somebody could be listening to this and think, well, that really does sound nuts, because I haven't experienced anything that would show me that, because we need to see it to believe it. But it's really the opposite. Like, we need to feel it and go within. But like, I've always had the help of really powerful dreams and premonition, intuition, and I mean, whenever you're dreaming that, and it's like not even just dreaming, but it's of out of body experiences, for so long, and you've experienced that, and then you wake up and you're hearing all of these people that are supposed to have this authority over you and have all of this knowledge and tell you what's what. And they're like, hey, that's not real. And then you look up the word real and you're like, well, what does that even mean? And you see it's got like 10 different meanings, and you're just like, whoa, okay. You just eventually start to think, hey, y'all are the ones that are nuts. Leave me alone. And you just believe in yourself. And that it can be a very beautiful thing, once you get through the indoctrination and realize it for what it is.
Well, and yeah, and I mean, maybe how do you look at indoctrination in terms of, I don't know. Lately, I've been realizing that I guess it's just like you said. It's always been a matter of believing in myself and believing that there is a way for me to be myself and be accepted in the world. And I think I still struggle with this. I think a lot of us do. Now that we have kind of been brought to this point where we have to become our authentic selves, and trying now to walk that middle line between being the hermit and being, I guess, like the sun, if you're thinking about it in terms of the tarot.
Well,
How do we bring what we've learned to the world? Because I don't think every person needs to experience what I've experienced to recognize that the only value we have is between each other. And when that value gets degraded, we degrade each other as well. Like, I don't think everybody has to really go through everything that we've been through to understand there's a better way to exist. You know what I mean?
right. The most important thing is how are they going to, I have dogs that might start barking, is to figure out where you are now. Like, what are your perceptions on the world? Like, what is your worldview? Are you existing in that duality, and there's still duality and, this or that in 5D. I mean, don't get me wrong, that still exists there, but the way that it is right now, like where it's so polarized, and I guess you got to figure out where you stand as an individual. Like, do you think that somebody is out as evil or good, and is it that black and white? Or, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, no, not everybody has to experience what I've experienced, because I wouldn't. I mean, it's been so hard, so difficult for me. Um, but depending on what everybody came here to learn, they're going to experience some kind of trauma. And I've heard somebody say that everybody on the planet is probably got at least a mild case of PTSD,
I was
because
just
of
thinking about this. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say because of the condition of the planet the way it is, because of the extreme polarities. So
Right.
everybody's got some form of
Oh yeah. We're
trauma.
traumatized like several times over. It seems like there's a threshold, right? Um, Most people that have PTSD end up finding out that now they have complex PTSD, meaning that it's not just this one trauma or this one experience that has happened. It's this one experience that has triggered this sort of um,
Ancient
anxious,
wound.
yeah, this reaction of anxiety and adrenaline and fight or flight, but it's based on all of the trauma that you've experienced, or you have to process through multiple instances where you have been traumatized. And
Think about the word react there for a second, which I just I wrote the other night. I was talking to somebody. React means to perform again. And these traumas that are coming up, and a lot of people don't realize it, they are connected to ancient wounds. I mean, and I don't I don't want to go
it's
too
hard
far
to
off on that,
conceptualize.
but yeah, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, and I'm talking about galactic kinds of wounds where, wounds from that are spanning from lifetime after lifetime, and old wounds that are stemming from other places. Especially, like, I mean, everybody at some level is a star seed, really, if you think about it. But I mean, like, for me, I'm bird and feline. I'm carrion and feline. I mean, those are your opposites, your extreme opposites right there of light and dark, boom, together in one body. So of course I'm going to be battling myself for a while, but I mean, these traumas that are coming up in our lives are coming up to be healed.
Well, yeah, and they're coming up from our ancestry, our DNA.
As well, yeah.
So
Yeah, well, yeah.
that's why you can have like soul karma, but it may be different from the things that you have to process based on where your physical body's DNA lineage is from, right?
Right.
You may not have, I mean, I don't want to get too far off in that. That's a little bit like, woo,
A little woo
yeah, I
woo.
was just a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's any way to conceptualize a lot of it right now, but I've noticed when I'm dealing with things that relate to my family versus things that relate to my personal journey, there is a difference. Like, I don't know if it's a difference in memory or what quite to call it. But yeah, like I was saying, a lot of individuals that develop PTSD end up finding that there were several times in their lives that they were traumatized. And this is where it can become a recovered somebody who's in recovery from
Right.
these
Which that, yeah, and
can
that you're
become
doing such a great job
powerful.
at. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I'm not trying to talk over you. I was just gonna say you're doing such a great job at like keeping, the flow and like topic and on, because I
Oh,
really
thank
can go
you.
like way off over here or over there. But yeah, the whole thing, the whole topic is trauma, so it can go really deep.
Well, what do you do with it? Like, what do you do with that trauma?
The formula of compassion. I will like I
You
will
sent
take
that
that.
to me and I really liked it. I haven't worked through it yet just because there's a lot of um I think like any spiritual practice, I read about a lot of different stuff, but what I actually put into practice is a different story.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
mean,
it was
when
a
I
lifesaver
look
for me.
through that, it's very practical and very um I like I said, I need to go through it. I need to take some of my own problems through it.
Well, just whenever you're ready. I mean, you can't force it. That's what for me at the beginning with like 3 or 4 different journals, and I'm, trying to figure out how to, and I'm like, oh, I've got to do this emotional clearing. Let me see how to do it. Teal Swan and Nikki Sutton and all these people. How do I get rid of my trauma? And it just didn't work for me. And when I finally, and I had already had Jaleila's books, and I gave them away because I wasn't ready. I mean, it's just like I really wasn't ready to use it. I mean, it took a year and a half for me to do just half of my events, and now I've realized that I'm going to be taking the other through the AA steps. So that's how I'm probably going to complete it, and that's just kind of it happens whenever it's time to happen. I mean, that's the flow of of everything. Everything's in flow, and it'll happen when you're ready. I mean, I think I've sent it to you before, but just one day it'll come to you. Like if you want to take something through the formula, then you'll just be like, oh, you'll get a nudge to do it, and that's your soul saying, hey, it's time to do that. And you got to listen at that time. But whenever I sent it to you, I'm sure it wasn't time. I can't push that on people. And that's one of my biggest things is like, I didn't have a voice for so long. And so whenever I did finally discover, hey, I do have a voice, it's like so loud. I'm like screaming. So I really do have a problem with that, a personal thing where I come across as a know-it-all. And so that's one of my life lessons is don't come across as a know-it-all. People will come to you when they're ready, and people process things when they're ready, and don't force it. Don't force yourself to do stuff. And that's what I was doing for a while. I just felt like I had to. Well, everybody else is doing this emotional clearing because they're good little light workers. No, no, and there's a lot of, man, I don't want to go too far off on that, but some of the light workers I've seen, like, oh my God, that channel, what is it? It's so culty now. It's Love Has Won, and you go on there and they're cussing and calling people evil and this and that, and I'm like, whoa, Love Has Won. What did they win?
Oh my God, that is such a good point. That is such a good freaking point. And why, like, I've been studying, so like, I'm trying to move into community oriented work, like social enterprise and things of that nature. So I've been studying social science, and I've been reading Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. And it talks about how there is basically the only thing worthwhile is the recognition of our humanity. And that's what this human experience is for. And oppressed people are basically dehumanized. The oppressor attempts to take away this person's affirmation of their own humanity, right? So the struggle is to liberate ourselves as oppressed people. That liberation can't come as a form of like, we can't become oppressors. You know what I mean? We can't oppress our former oppressors and call ourselves liberated. Love has won, but won what?
They want to hate because you can't hate. I mean, that's still in polarization. Whenever you swing too far this way or too far that way, you still swung too far. And that's the biggest thing with the love and light communities is especially right now with what's happening with the pedophilia. That's the hardest thing. And for me, and I'm also having, I've got some experience with sexual abuse as well that I'm trying, at some point going to integrate, but I'm not there yet. But I mean, look at what's happening to the children, and that's so difficult. But at the end of the day, we can't just be like, oh, go lynch these people. Let's just go kill them and blood in the streets, even though they are doing some very horrific things. You have to realize that it's still a mirror. It's
a
still
big mirror. Oh, a big mirror, because I think for you personally, having gone through it is something different than what a lot of people are even talking about on YouTube, right? A lot of them are just headhunting, right? It's almost like trying to build a case against who we already know is our oppressor, right? Like, and in that,
but the fact that we give them the power to be our oppressor.
exactly, is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no oppressor.
There
We
isn't.
have the power. And the sooner that we step into it, because whenever you're a victim, you don't have any power. And that's what they want. And I don't want to go too far off onto the government thing, because they are playing a role. They are playing a parent child role for us, the dark side, the dragon, the which I am part as well. I mean, I'm like all of it. We have to realize that these are souls playing a role. This is a universal game of polarity integration, not polarity light obliterates the dark.
Right, what does that even mean? Like, that's impossible.
Yeah, I've had past lives as dragon. I've had past life as bird. And I've had past lives where I've killed, and I'm sure I've killed children. I mean, we've had how many thousands of lives as a soul, so for us to run from that darkness is not the way to go. I mean, because we are running from ourselves, and our oppressor becomes our own shadow.
Yes, 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 big time. It's and that's where it gets into this topic of false generosity, right? Um, which is like a generous act, but it's only generous insofar as oppression still exists. True generosity is the desire to empower, um, oneself and free oneself and others from the situation altogether, not to just mitigate the damages, if that makes sense. And so that's where, like, well, not lately, I used to get real frustrated with my spirituality and trying to apply it in the community arena, because we look at what our oppressors do, and it's just kind of like what you're saying, like, um, we let that be an excuse to not try sometimes, right?
To
Like,
stay a victim. I mean, are we going to stand up and say that's what the dark team dark is waiting for? When, as a child species, and the human race is still a child species, and our role is to become the peacekeepers, galactic peacekeepers. Now, I won't go too far into that, but what they're waiting for is for us to step into that power.
I
Um,
agree. I've said that.
show we can end this universal game with compassion and not blood in the streets. And I do have a connection with a world that was destroyed by the sun. There was a direct energy weapon, like radiated. It was an EMP at the sun, and I have memory of the sun exploding. And this is because whenever all of the pedophilia and all of the stuff that came out to a head, the traumatized humanity wanted blood, because they had not done their own emotional clearing. They had not recognized that darkness is there as a teacher. It's there. They didn't have access to their own discernment. They just wanted to obliterate it, so they went to war. And I mean, long story short, the planet was destroyed, and I was there. I remember. I mean, these are ancient wounds. I could have been one of the people who was doing the bad stuff on that planet. But I remember seeing the sun explode. And there, so a lot of these things, it's so important for us as a humanity as a whole to to love ourselves no matter what we've done. You know, no matter what you've done, it don't matter. You know, at the end of the day, it's still we're immortal souls. You know what I mean? Hillary Clinton could be my soul, you know, and a sister of mine or brother.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that you already are. Like, despite what our genes and our whatever we think our DNA says, right? Because I look at people who if you stick to that kind of like thinking, that's oppressive. You save humanity for yourself, for your family, right? And everything outside of that is excluded. Well, that doesn't help anybody. Like, and that's not a sustainable way to exist. It's just not sustainable. You don't even have to be related to somebody to understand that if they are in suffering, and if you want to like get real spiritual about it, like, so are you. That's reflecting something about you, right? So we should maybe do something about it. And I think that like what we've talked about before, and your desire to do kind of like peer-based trauma therapy, or not even therapy, there's not even a real word for it yet, I don't think.
I think life coach, intuitive, like life coaching. I think that's where I'm headed. I don't know if I would ever be. I mean, I still have a lot of blocks and a lot of things to work through personally, so I won't be ready, I don't think, to do that part of it until I'm really here. I'm just now starting my AA steps. You know what I mean? So I want to have at least 2 years of sobriety, you know, before I do that. But yes, that's absolutely where I'm headed. There's a lot of people waking up, and they're scared. I mean, I was terrified when I first had my awakening. I was so scared. I got hospitalized 6 times. You know, I've got that experience. I was so scared because I had all of these memories coming up of other lifetimes. And yet I was being told, oh, you poor thing. And, you know, that doesn't help. You know, it just made it worse because I didn't believe, oh, well, why am I being shown all of these things? Oh, well, here, take this pill.
Nobody's looking into it.
Yeah. And I was like remembering being like, I'm a cat. And then, you know, and so I'm a cat. Why am I being told I'm a cat? And then, you know, to hear about a year and a half ago, I had a dream where I was like being led up to this stone, like it was like almost like a cave painting, but it was like out in the open. It was just like a giant stone like sheet, and it had carvings on it, and there was a bird, and it had a really long beak, and then right next to it was a cat. And I looked at it, and somebody, I heard a voice say, "That's you." I'm like, okay, well, you can't deny that. You can't deny stuff like that, you know. And so just that there's the fact that there's still people out there. I don't even like to say people. There's still beings out there that are waking up and starting to realize that there's more to this reality, that there are other lifetimes, that there are other things going on, and then they're still being told no, there's not. So they're going to be looking for people.
Yeah. Think about homeless people, and not homeless people that are suffering from some kind of mental illness or like whatever stigmas we attach to it. As I've kind of gone into that field of work, I've come to realize that there's a good amount of homeless people that aren't severely mentally handicapped. And there are other factors, there are other reasons behind their appeared desire not to contribute to society, right? Whether that's they haven't had the opportunity to cultivate their specific contribution to society. They don't want to operate within society's norms. There are people out there who have realized that, you know, the way we operate is not effective and it's not worth participating in. But when it comes to us kind of banding together and figuring out a better way. I think that's what we are embarking on right now. And
Well, what are they contributing to, and that's their
yeah,
contract is that they, they also don't have a lot of, see, one thing that people don't really think about is that things have a frequency. Your belongings and all of your worldly possessions they have an energy attached to them. Whenever you don't have anything, you don't have all of that excess baggage. You don't have they're not tied into a house note, and they don't have to pay taxes to,
right. At the same time, like people don't even recognize them or acknowledge them in a lot
yeah,
of those instances. Our society thinks shit of people who have nothing, right? The idea of no thing, what we actually come from, no thing.
yeah,
It's
I
terrifying.
mean, it
Like,
is. It really is. It's a very sad way of looking at people, like, oh, I'm better than the hierarchy of, well, what
well,
are
and this
we?
is where like we can change the mode of operation of community, and change the paradigm of social interaction, social and cultural interaction. Really,
That's
I
the
think.
key. That's the key right there. Is how do we think that it's going to change unless it starts to change, and we have to be the ones to change it?
Right.
Some channel and they're like, oh, you're crazy, oh, you're girl, go ahead and talk to your dogs some more, and
But
they
I don't know that. I don't know that that is really there. Like, if you think about it, we were talking about Kanye West, right? And the conversation he had with the president. If the freaking president, right, this monster we've made up in our collective consciousness,
sorry,
can
but
understand, what'd you say?
I'm sorry, but I love Trump. I have dreams about him. I really, I mean, he's not here. The thing about him is he was not groomed to be a president, like, of a free country. And the Magenta Pixie does a video on this where she describes it brilliantly. I mean, this isn't a free country. That's the thing, is he's a loose
Well,
kid, and he
well,
can't.
yeah, and my point being though that like if Kanye West can talk to him about parallel lives and he doesn't call him crazy. Who are we so afraid of calling us crazy? Like, before we were called crazy, we were still trying to fit um, our authentic selves in this faulty paradigm.
Yeah,
So
you've
it's
got Kanye
oh,
West
that's
in
crazy.
there
Drug
talking
use,
about, yeah, you're right. I remember that. And
perception otherwise. Now it's different. I don't think it's crazy, and I don't think anybody else thinks it's crazy.
oh, there
They
are
just
still
don't
some people
realize.
that do. They don't, and they're on their own journey. They're not there yet. They're, they've lived. Think about this. Anytime that you think, oh, this person's still asleep, this person, blah, blah, blah,
But I
they're in the
don't.
matrix. But, well, some people do, and they're still very much like, especially with a newly awakening, there's a tendency to go overboard with it. Like, I'm awake and you're not. Well, other lifetimes have existed where that person was awake and you were asleep in a different role, so every lifetime is different, and there's so many, and they're all happening now. And you're
Well, not
right, the fact that Kanye West was sitting there in the Oval Office and listening to Kanye, the president, and is listening to Kanye West talking about parallel lives, parallel lifetimes, is just, and he didn't flinch. And he's just sitting there like, yep, yep, I'll
nodding
vouch
his
for
head.
anything this man says. Yeah, it's something, like, and there's there's all kinds of stuff about Trump and who he really is, and that he's a time traveler and this and that. I
Oh
have,
my gosh, I've read into that one too. It's so cool to be able to talk to somebody else who knows about that because I've brought it up to other people and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's all this stuff."
it's really funny, and I know that there's a lot of people that probably wouldn't understand this, but I was coming back from the store this morning, and I was behind a semi truck, and it had 5D on the license plate, and then it had McLeod software on the truck, and I'm going, what the hell? Because McLeod is tied into Trump. I'm just going, oh, whoa, boom. Like, it was just a really great sign that I'm doing what I need to be doing, and I'm on the right path with this healing. So I guess I just want to say with that, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to do a class, the peer support class that we've got down here in Texas. It's a week-long class, but I'm just I haven't really been doing videos. I don't have a computer right now. um, but I just have to go with the flow. I mean, I've got to get a job, and I've got a lot of things that I need to take care of. But I would say within 3 years, I would like, maybe even before then, probably before that, I could do clients. I could take people and,
yeah, and I think it's also, that's kind of the work I'm trying to figure out, is how do we facilitate this in a way that is, like, I guess, more equitable, or not more equitable, but when I started, like, when I wanted to read tarot, I wanted to do it because I was like, shit, I can get paid to be a psychic, like fortune teller, awesome. And then I really got into it, and I started to understand what was behind it, and branch out into other spiritual practices and understandings and all of that. That if I'm just giving readings to people, I'm not really giving them the real magic of this system, right? I'm not really healing them if I'm still wanting them to, like, come back to me, if that makes sense. Like, I think we fall into this a lot, where as a spiritual community, we are either trying to get resources from each other, or people who are newly spiritually awakening, right? Who are seeking answers. I see people take advantage of that. And I would just, I don't know, I would like to see it done differently. And I see it done in nonprofit community services, local government, everywhere. We just need a new approach, I think.
Are you talking about a method as to how to charge for these services?
Yeah, how to properly value them, and also, like, give them to the people who really need it, who may not have.
Well, okay, so there's we should probably cut this short after this, but okay, so like Jalila charges $125 for an hour. And I really feel like, I'm on disability. I realize that I mean, my money is limited. I know that there's people out there that don't really have the money, but the thing is that the money, everybody that's incarnated here has a plan for them to be in abundance. There's a plan in place. All they have to do is tune in, and they have to be on the right path. So okay, so if you think about that, like, I was considering, well, how much am I going to charge for my, what is my time worth? And I thought, well, maybe I'll start out at 75 or $100 for an hour. But okay, so think about this though. You got people out there like Andrew Bartzis. I just recently asked him, how much do you charge for a session? And oh my God, I was completely blown away. They came back, and they were like, "Oh well, Andrew's so busy. It's $1,000 an hour."
Yeah. Well, consider how many psychiatrists have you seen that were not helpful? How many counseling situations have you been in that were not appropriate? And consider that they are charging even more than that.
to them. And, you know,
and
like
they also have mechanisms in place that you see what I'm saying? So it's not like if I see a psychiatrist, I'm not paying $5,000 out of pocket, but my insurance is paying a portion. You know, they're getting paid the same way, but it's through our collective resources, which are much more abundant than our individual ones, if that makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I don't really know about like there should be some kind of industry standard. I mean, you've definitely got some people out there that are like really thinking that they should charge $1,000. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that pay that. I certainly won't pay $1,000 to talk to Andrew Bartzis so he could, you know, read my Akashic. We can actually, if we tune in enough, I could read my own Akashic records, you know. But so let me stick to the point here. For me, I think I at first will charge, but either 75 or $100 for an hour, and that's, you know, um, and if you like maybe package it in a way where you could get more sessions for you know, a better price. Like if you buy 5 sessions, then you get a discount, or you buy 3, then you get a discount, you know, because they're going to want more than one session, you know, with me, you know, and just kind of go from there. I mean, because you can't just give it away for free. This is still a society that's on
No.
money, and we
Right.
we to be able to eat, you know.
Right. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to learn how to break down is like, well, then we have to reshape our value systems at the same time. Like I can't tell somebody, let me help you get out of the system. But you got to use the currency that drives it. You got to use the same like system of like oppression kind of.
About the fiat currency the way it is now. I don't I As
I
far
just
as the
mean the concept of capitalism, gain and loss, right?
right, well, okay, well, there will be in the new 5D, the new earth, there will still be some kind of currency, some kind of, they probably won't call it currency because what that implies with the whole, you know, I won't go there. There will still be some kind of money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I mean, there will be eventually some kind of reset where the, you know, the Federal Reserve will be like repurposed. I don't think we'll continue to have the same dollars that we have now, but eventually it will be some other thing. And there's already a plan in place for this. I mean, trust me, Trump knows what he's doing. So, I mean, for now, it's just dollars. Is this what we've got? We've got to use what we've got. So if you want to charge, if you know somebody is homeless and they, you know, they need help, you can help them, but they need to help themselves as well. And by at some point, it's stepping over the line of helping into caretaking. And whenever you caretake somebody, you're not really helping them. You're sending them a message energetically that they are not capable of doing it for themselves. They're not, you know, they're not able to do anything on their own. And that's, you know, that's what I was doing with my friend John, you know, was caretaking him, and it really does hurt people when we do that. So like if you had a homeless guy that
I'm
came up to you,
talking about like we have social systems, right? Like, okay, my local government has 64 or $6.41 million. It takes from our collective pool. So every time an economic transaction gets made, whether we really pay taxes on that or not, like if a homeless person uses $1 to buy an Arizona iced tea, there's taxation on that, right? That is what pays for these social services, right? Now, these are supposed to be giving those opportunities for people to learn how to empower themselves, because our school systems definitely don't teach us how to be empowered in this world, right? And if you don't have family support or community support, you may never learn, what it takes to make a living for yourself, right? Now,
Yeah.
these systems that get all our collective funds, they are not really providing these opportunities. We know they're not. And I think it's because they're not actually they're based upon people in the system looking down at these people who seemingly don't want to contribute and saying, I know what you need. I know what's best for you. We don't need your input on it, or like need to hear what you think you need. If you don't jump through these hoops now, you are basically, you're choosing not to empower yourself.
Well,
But
that's
you
the
never give them
ultimate.
the opportunity to create the solution. So
That's yeah. I mean that you've got your and I remember like I know you've got you've got so many irons in the fire. Yeah, I mean, as far as like the community, I guess each community is going to have they'll be responsible for changing how they help. I mean, and getting the access to somebody like me, like would they help pay for counseling for somebody like me who would be an unlicensed, in their terms, unlicensed spiritual counselor. I mean the everything is in the government, and all of the interweavings of it will have to be restructured. And that's what we're in the throes of right now. And that's why it's so frustrating for people like you. You're doing so good and you're out there like fighting for that change. And that's your role. I mean, in 10 years from now, you're probably going to be doing you'll be surprised. You'll look back at this and be like, wow. And you'll be thinking, man, that was a hard road. But yeah, people need access to shamans. And, like if you look online, you look at different, you want to do a soul retrieval because you've had your soul shattered and you need to go get those pieces back. But your insurance company is not going to pay for that. You're not. It's not going to be covered on Blue Cross Blue Shield. So how do you get up? How do you do that? Yeah, I mean that I do see the point. I really do. But at the same time, we're not going to be able to just give things away for free. So that's that's a dilemma right there. That'd be a whole other topic on
yeah,
how
right.
to get people to heal themselves. Um, but with the formula of compassion, it's only, I think I paid $40 for it, and it saved my life for $40.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that there is a reasonable way to do it, and by like all means, I think, yeah, you do deserve to be valued for the services you provide. And it's good that you're not going to be the kind of person that is charging $1,000 just to have a conversation with, you know what I mean? Like wouldn't put you in that same category at all. I mean, that is so outrageous. um 75 is like, to 100 is more than reasonable. And you're actually good at, you're real. And I definitely think you have a gift and a knack for helping people. Our friendship has helped me immensely, so thank you.
No problem. I guess we should probably close this down.
Yeah, I was thinking so.
But yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so glad. Like I always give my email address out to people and hope that they will reach out to me. And, I'm glad that you did. And I see that we probably have a contract together as well. But, let's see where that takes us.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I love you.
Love you too, and let's do this again soon.
Yes, I think so. I would really love that. We'll have to plan that
I don't know how to end
and
this
figure out.
call, so you're gonna have to do to hang up
Okay,
on
no
me.
problem. All right,
All
bye
right,
everyone.
bye, y'all. Y'all have a good one.